killing you each other, the value and break our powers, black paper.
He's so proud and full of himself. Was that the case, or did he just have personal boundaries? Dancehall is not a homecoming party. It is a battlefield. Of course, a battlefield experiences confrontations, alliances, as well as boundaries. When you hear Shabba Ranks, what comes to mind? Grammy, award-winning performance, impact. Shabba Ranks was the first dancehall artist to win a Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album, winning back-to-back for As Raw As Ever in 1992 and Extra Naked in 1993. He has signature hit songs like Mr. Loverman, House Call, and Wicked in Bed. He also played a pivotal role in taking Jamaican dancehall to North America, collaborating with artists like KRS-One and Queen Latifah, and was compared to major pop stars for being so popular.
Rexton, Ralston, Fernando, Gordon.
If Shabba was so popular in dancehall and worked with so many international artists, why didn't he collaborate with certain dancehall stars? Was it ego, politics, his personal philosophy, or something deeper? By the end of this video, you will understand the 8 artists Shabba Ranks refused to work with and what influenced his decision. Let's start with where the tension feels obvious. At number 8, we have Ninja Man. Let's start here because if there was ever a pairing fans assumed would happen, it was this one. Almost everyone thought they were going to do a song together. In the late 80s and early 90s, Ninja Man was not just active, he was explosive. Sound system dominance, stage show theatrics, verbal warfare. He thrived in lyrical combat and crowd humiliation tactics.
Anytime I put it on, I no Gucci, I no Louis Vuitton.
When Ninja Man climbed the stage and grabbed the mic, it wasn't just music. It was confrontation. Then came Shabba Ranks. Shabba didn't perform chaos. He performed control. His delivery was slower, deliberate, and almost regal. He didn't shout for dominance. He stood still and commanded the crowd, as well as commanded respect and control. His voice carried authority without theatrics. That difference matters. The thing about dancehall culture during that era was that the image wasn't cosmetic. It was structural. Artists built almost mythological personas. And once that persona solidified, you had to do everything to protect it. Now imagine putting Ninja Man and Shabba on the same track. Who dominates the energy? Does the song lean into confrontation or controlled swagger? Does Ninja Man's explosive unpredictability overshadow Shabba's poised authority? Or does Shabba's calm dominance flatten Ninja Man's theatrics? At the time, Shabba was ascending internationally, especially as dancehall began crossing into global markets. He was building a very specific image, which was disciplined, commanding, larger than life, but not chaotic. Ninja Man, on the other hand, thrived in raw sound system environments. His power was rooted in local stage supremacy, not corporate expansion. That difference in strategic direction likely created a natural separation between the two. It was not beef, not hatred.
You know me a bad man. I mean, no keep secret. When me say bad, me mean bad.
At that time, collaborations between equally dominant hardcore artists were rare, unless there was a clear hierarchy. Shabba was positioning himself as a standalone force, and pairing with another equally intimidating personality could blur that positioning. As a result, they both didn't collaborate because the chemistry was too strong in the wrong way. Two lions just don't duet easily, so it was a hard one. And in dancehall, especially during its most aggressive era, maintaining individual dominance often mattered more than creating joint moments. That doesn't mean they couldn't have made a powerful track. It means the timing, branding, and strategic vision likely didn't align. And sometimes, that's enough. When Shabba, in a recent interview with TVJ's Entertainment Report, was asked to comment on the squabble between himself and Ninja Man, he shoved the microphone from in front of his face and hurled expletives at the reporter. "Take the mic out of me face," he said as he pushed it away. "Ask me about music and don't ask me about fuckery. Go ask him what the issue with him. You're gonna see how I live my life." He then went on to address the issue, stating that he doesn't badmind or hate anyone. When Ninja Man was asked about the scenario, he said he was disappointed in Shabba Ranks for how he handled the interview. "You let me down. No matter what you and no DJ have, no matter what you and nobody have, don't take that out on the press," Ninja Man said. Moving on, at number 7, we have Bounty Killer. Now, let's talk about generational shifts. Killer is one name nobody expected. By the time Bounty Killer rose into full prominence in the mid-90s, Shabba's peak global run had already occurred. The timeline matters. Shabba's dominance came during dancehall's first major global crossover moment. Bounty Killer's dominance emerged during a resurgence of militant, street-rooted hardcore dancehall. That difference in timing is crucial. When Bounty Killer took control of the hardcore lane, he positioned himself as the poor people's governor. His leadership style was structured. He built alliances, mentored artists, and formed movements. Shabba's peak persona was different. He wasn't building movements. He was, in fact, the movement. And here's where collaboration becomes unlikely. In an interview after his performance, Ranks was asked about the state of dancehall and the new artists, and he didn't hesitate to call out Bounty Killer. He accused him of treating younger artists with disdain and belittling their content. For years, Bounty Killer had voiced out his dislike for many new artists, criticizing their lyrics for being shallow. He saw himself as someone who was supposed to keep dancehall culture, but Shabba Ranks thought otherwise. He didn't think it was right to put down the new artists just because their style didn't match the previous one. Ranks believed that comments from Bounty could kill talents and block growth. The fallout was noticed. Ranks didn't like Bounty's views, and neither did Bounty. If you think Bounty was a little too much, then you should see the next artist on our list, Supercat. Now this one is fascinating because the thought of a collaboration between Shabba Ranks and Supercat makes perfect sense. Both were dominant figures, and they were recognized internationally. So why didn't we get a defining record between them? The answer isn't drama, it's positioning.
19,000 years ago, and a profile for them, so I just a jump burger, I them still a rascal at shoulders.
Supercat was a bridge between Kingston and Brooklyn. He embodied that transnational dancehall identity before it was fully mainstream. His influence in New York's Caribbean diaspora was massive, and that connection gave him cultural power outside Jamaica in a way that felt grassroots and organic. Shabba's rise, however, leaned more into corporate global expansion. He had major labels as well as Grammy recognition. The difference was that while Supercat had grassroots popularity, Shabba attained industry global popularity, which were two different worlds. In the early 90s, dancehall was in a transition period. It was moving from sound system dominance into international pop culture visibility, and artists had to decide how they wanted to evolve. Supercat maintained his elusive, selective, almost anti-mainstream attitude, even while achieving success. Shabba, on the other hand, leaned into visibility. He embraced the moment when dancehall cracked open global markets. It's no news that when two artists are climbing similar ladders at the same time, collaboration can become complicated. But the question lies in who benefits more, who shares the spotlight, and who stands at the top. It was difficult to collaborate because both Shabba and Supercat represented different power structures, and a collaboration between them would feel like merging brands instead of strengthening them. Shabba wanted to build an image of singular dominance, one voice, one authority figure carrying dancehall into international rooms. Merging with another dominant alpha like Supercat could blur that clarity. This isn't about ego in a petty sense. It's about brand architecture. Supercat had his kingdom, and Shabba was building his. And in dancehall's most competitive era, artists protected their thrones carefully. Number 5, Benny Man. When two artists both carry symbolic authority, what is used to distinguish the bigger person? Titles in dancehall are never neutral. When Beenie Man embraced the king of dancehall narrative, it symbolized generational leadership. He became the face of adaptability. He had radio hits, stage mastery, and lyrical versatility.
You want a proper fix? Call me. You want to catch a...
Shabbat, during his era, didn't need a crown. He had global validation. But here's where collaboration becomes delicate. When two artists both carry symbolic authority, hierarchy must be negotiated. Who starts the song? Whose audience should dominate the marketing for the music? As the years went by, Beanie's relentless hunger for fame took another turn. He couldn't bear to see someone else in the spotlight. At first it was subtle, then it turned into a full-blown competition. Ranks revealed that Benny lobbied promoters to book him instead of Ranks. He would even go as far as charging less than required. The last straw that broke the camel's back was during an event, when Benny used his performance slot to make fun of Ranks' performance, playing on the controversies that had affected Ranks' career. The crowd laughed and roared, but Ranks was silent. Ranks knew it was time to cut ties. He walked away and never looked back. It was a scar that could never be erased. The fourth artist on our list is Buju Banton. Early in his career, Buju Banton operated inside hardcore dancehall energy. He had a commanding tone, street dominance, and a fast rise. It was during his rise to the spotlight that his path with Shabba Ranks crossed. But Buju's career trajectory shifted toward roots reggae, spirituality, and cultural messaging. His songwriting began reflecting Rastafari philosophy, African identity themes, and social commentary. The emotional tone of his music changed, and his audience's expectations changed with him. Shabba's global era identity remained the same. He commanded dancehall with authority and dominance. When he was on stage, the power was in his hand, and the whole stage stood at a standstill. By the mid to late 90s, Buju's listeners expected depth and spiritual resonance, while Shabba's audience associated him with a dominant and authoritative dancehall presence and global cultural dominance. Collaboration is not just about the artist coming together to make music. It requires philosophical alignment as well as brand protection, which plays a major role in legacy artist decision-making. For artists to stay relevant at the time, they had to maintain the emotional contract built with their audience. And large collaborations stand a chance at altering audience perception if the theme and tone of the messages clash. Since Buju and Ranks had different message tones and themes, they couldn't work together. Their separation reflects evolution, not conflict. It is obvious that career direction determines collaboration likelihood more than mutual respect or talent level. Number 3, Elephant Man. By the time Elephant Man was running dancehall stages, the culture had shifted. Dance moves were everything. High energy, crowd interaction, and pure party atmosphere. Elephant Man didn't just perform songs, he created moments. He introduced dance moves, instructions, and hype. Now, imagine when Shabba was in his prime. When he stepped on stage, he didn't need to jump around. He barely moved. He could stand on a spot and deliver all his performance and still command the audience. And somehow, that made him even more powerful. His stillness was intimidating. His voice did the heavy lifting. So imagine them on the same music. Elephant Man is jumping, singing, and entertaining the audience. And Shabba is standing like a general, still in control. It's not impossible. But stylistically, it feels like two different chapters of dancehall history meeting in one studio. And here's something else people overlook. Legacy artists don't chase trends. They protect eras. They make sure to guard the era they stand for, with everything they have. While Shabba was guarding his era, Elephant Man began mocking him on stage, sometimes throwing jabs at him and calling him outdated.
This is how we do our breakfast in the morning. Airport a chop, pumpkin, dumpling.
This spiraled into bitter drama. Shabba represents a foundational era of global dancehall breakthroughs, while Elephant Man represents a high-energy party era shift. And neither was willing to switch sides. Ranks thinks Elephant Man used the controversy to stay relevant in the industry. Many pointed out that Elephant Man, whom Ranks brought into the industry, had overshadowed him. Sometimes legends don't collaborate with later waves because it reframes their identity inside a newer cultural tone. But up till this day, Ranks gets upset at the mention of his name. Coming in at number 2, we have Capleton. If you've ever watched Capleton perform, then you know it's not just music. It feels like a sermon, a spiritual release, more like hypnosis. Now imagine putting such energy next to Shabba's. Everybody knows that Shabba doesn't explode. He commands. While Capleton burns, Shabba stands firm. They were two opposite characters. Capleton's music carries urgency. You feel like you must change immediately, or else something will happen. There's fire in every syllable. There's ideology in the delivery. There's conviction that goes beyond rhythm. Shabba's power feels established, like the throne is already his, like he doesn't need to shout or move too much because the room already understands his style. So, if they decide to collaborate, the question that comes to people's minds becomes, what kind of song are they making together? Is it revolutionary? Is it spiritual? Or is it just regular reggae music? When artists are deeply rooted in a specific identity, they're careful about blending energies that might confuse their core audience. And collaboration isn't just about making a hit, it's about protecting legacy. Capleton protects his message fiercely, while Shabba protects his image just as fiercely. Sometimes that mutual strength creates distance, not drama. Making it to the top of our list, we have Sean Paul. This is probably the most interesting non-collaboration of all. Sean Paul became the second massive global face of dancehall after Shabba's era. But here's the industry truth people miss. They didn't dominate the same global window. Shabba broke dancehall into early mainstream global pop structures, the early MTV era, early global dancehall curiosity era. Meanwhile, Sean Paul entered when global pop was already ready to fully absorb Caribbean influence. This was when streaming began. Pop artists collaborating became normal, and it strengthened collaborations with global artists at the time. It seemed easier for Sean Paul to succeed in the industry because Shabba, as well as other artists, had already cracked the code and forced the door open for him. He became the successor who came into the new industry. His songs traveled far and wide and became massive hits. He was featured on radios internationally, as well as pop crossovers everywhere. But here's where the real story lies. They didn't dominate at the same time. Shabba cracked the door open for global dancehall recognition in the early 90s, but Sean Paul walked through a more developed global pipeline in the 2000s. The industry structures were different timing, different style, and different modes of performance.
The radar, superstar bar far, what me tell them, girl, is a king of the queen of me.
That answers the question as to why they didn't collaborate. When your commercial peak windows don't overlap strongly, collaboration becomes unlikely.
And I got so shunned apart from the block where we say, protect the web in every second.
By the time Sean Paul was ruling international charts, Shabba was already a top figure in the industry and cemented as a legacy pioneer. And sometimes pioneers and successors don't collaborate because the narrative feels cleaner and different when their eras stand apart. It keeps the history organized, keeps the legacy intact, keeps certain performances within a specific range, and sometimes that matters more than a feature credit. The fact that Ranks has not collaborated with certain artists does not necessarily mean he fell out with them. Most times, they choose based on message alignment, era positioning, or industry timing. And it is obvious that for most artists, Shabba Ranks didn't collaborate with. It's because he was trying to protect his era and legacy in dancehall. And most times, not collaborating just preserves your spark. In our next video, we will unravel something shocking about dancehall. You do not want to miss it for anything.